Om Namo Venkateshaya. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavathanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashanteye Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanideye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha. Tismarana Matrena Janma Samsara Bandhanat Vimuchate Namastasmi Vishnave Prabha Vishnave Lakshmi Nata Samarambam Nate Amana Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Partaya Pradibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om Namo Venkateshaya. My pranams everybody. So we have been looking at chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan is saying, whosoever thinks about me at the time of leaving this body will ultimately reach me. There is no doubt about that, Arjuna. Similarly, people who think about whatever objects or whatever things that they think at the time of at the time they leave this body, they reach that whatever is the destination that they thought of at the last time. So that is what Bhagavan is saying. Also, he says, therefore, tasma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyasa mayarpita manabutihi mameva aishyasi na samsayah. So that means asamsayah. That means he's saying, always think about me. Then therefore at the time of last minute also you will have this, my thought, and therefore you will be reaching me. So there is no doubt on that. That's what he's saying. But then we discussed yesterday, it is not so easy to remember Bhagavan's name at the last moment, or for that matter, always thinking about him. So Bhagavan gave another way out in Varaha Purana, where he said that when your body and then mind is in good condition, you surrender to me and saying that I may not be able to remember you at that time, then Bhagavan says, I will remember you. Aham smarami madbhaktam nayami paramam gati. I will remember you at the last minute and take you there. And of course, we saw the example of one of the disciples of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came in the last minute and then took his devotee to the higher lokas. Also, we talked about this conversation between Tirukachinambihal as well as Vadaraja Perumal, where he said, Antima Smriti Varjanam. That means for a person who has surrendered to me, there is no need to remember me at the time of the last minute. So that was the, Bhagavan made it easy for us, and therefore let's proceed on with sloka number 8 now.
Namaste Guruji. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan.
So, Abhyasa yoga yuktin. That Abhyasa means practice. Keep on practicing this, this meditation continuously for a long period of time. Chetasa. Chetasa means along with this, the mind and the intelligence. Na anya gamina. That means without being going into any other places. That means, thinking about Bhagavan only. Ananya Chintayantam. That's what we are going to see in chapter number 9. So without thinking of any other objects or anything else, a person who practices the habit of thinking about me always thinking about him always, Paramam Purusham Divyam. So that means this is about the me, who is the Parama ultimate supreme God. Purusham means one who is residing in the Jivatmas, all the Jivatmas. Puri Shete iti Purushaha. That means one who is residing in all this, this Puri means this body. So residing in this body is Paramatma, thinking about me, Divyam, a very divine person. Yati Partha Anuchinte. That means always thinking about me, he always comes to me. So that means he comes to me, therefore he goes to me. That means in the sense that a person who has been constantly thinking about me without any other thought, and then ultimately he reaches me alone. That's what is because when Arjuna wanted to know how should one think about you at the last minute, so Bhagavan is saying always think about me. When you always think about me at the last minute, obviously you will think about me and therefore ultimately reach me. So that is what Bhagavan is saying in this sloka also. Continuing the same argument he is saying in the sloka 8 also. Let's go on to sloka number 9.
Kavim Purana Manushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasaf Parastat.
So he is talking about the greatness of Paramatma. He said, Kavim. Kavim means one who knows everything. Because Kavi means we say in common parlance, we say he's a poet. And then Kavi means the one who is the knower of all things. So Bhagavan is the knower of all things, and therefore he's called as Kavihi. Kavim. Kavim Puranam. Puranam means Pura api Nava. That means he's old, at the same time he's new. So that means whenever you read any of the scriptures or anything like that, you will always find new things, new things. That's why it is called as Purana. So even if you read Bhagavatam, you must have read it n number of times. If you read for the n plus one time, you'll get new insights into it. So that is why even if it is old, if you keep reading it, it will give you new insights. So similarly, Bhagavan Pura Api Nava. That means he has been there for a long period of time. There is no time when he was not there. Even now, that's what our Shastra say, that when you go to Shiva Kuntam, Bhagavan looks even quite a young person of the 16 years of old age or something. So such is the kind of new. Even though he's old, he looks like a new person, and therefore he's called as Purana. Anushasitaram. Anushasitaram means one is able to command, one is able to give orders, one is the controller. All those things are called as Anushasitaram. Shasita means one is able to give orders. So that means one is able to give orders and control this entire universe, and therefore is called as Anushasitaram. Anoho Aniyam. Anu means atom. Is even smaller than the atom as such. So he can be, that's what this Kathopanishad says, Anoho Aniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Is smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. How can a thing be smaller than the smallest and at the same time bigger than the biggest? Take the example of the space. The space is the greatest thing. There is nothing, because everything resides in space only. So that means it's the greatest of great, all things. At the same time, it is present even inside even the smallest things. The smallest things, it contains space inside it. And therefore, it is smaller than smallest, greater than the greatest. So that is Bhagavan is also Anoho Aniya. So he's even smaller than the smallest. Even in the very tiny, the beings, Bhagavan resides inside the tiny beings also. And therefore, he is called as Anoho Aniya. Anusmarete. Anusmarete Adyaha Yaha. So that means one is able to think about me like this. That is, who is all-knowing, who is Purana, and then he is Anisasita, then Anoho Aniya. That's when he is able to think about that person. Sarvasya Dhataram. So that means he is also a Dhata, means supporter. So Bhagavan is also the supporter of all the entire supporter and nourisher of this entire universe. He not only created this universe, he is sustaining this universe by providing whatever is required for the sustenance of this universe. For example, he is providing the necessary requirements of food for all the people. Then there is the greatest of the kindness of Bhagavan, compassion you can understand. Before any creature is being brought out into this world, he creates the food for that one. For example, even the things where he secretes the milk in the mother's breast before the child is born. So that means he's creating the food even before the new thing is born into. That is what is the what you call dhataram, sastara. Similarly, the egg, your egg contains all the things that is required for the embryo to survive. So that's what it is. So Bhagavan creates such a compassionate that he is creating the food even before the new being is brought into this universe. So that is dhataram, that is the sustainer. He's sustaining all of us by providing the necessary food, the necessary air, oxygen, everything is required. Then the rainfall, then the air, everything that is required for us to sustain, for us to live in this world, he's providing that, and therefore it's called a sarvasya. All. He is the protector, not only as all the beings in this universe are being supported by, maintained by him, therefore it's called sarvasya dhataram. Achintya rupam. Achintya rupam. Chintya means to conceive. He cannot be conceived. His form cannot be conceived. For example, when you say then he is present in all beings as the this inner controller, Antaryami. That is one. So then we think that he is Anohani, that he must be smaller things. At the same time, they are the same Bhagavan. In him, everybody resides in him. So that means he must be the biggest of all things. So everything resides in him. So that means it's very difficult for the mind to conceive of what would be the Bhagavan's Swarupam. So that is what is Achintya Rupam. Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. That means Tamasaha Parastat. Tamasaha means darkness. Parastat, beyond the darkness, is shining like a Aditya. That means the sun. Aditya Varnam is shining like the sun, color of the sun, the golden color. So that means he is shining. He is the light. He is the light which dispels all the darkness. Similarly, he is the knowledge which dispels all the ignorance. And therefore, Bhagavan is the source of knowledge. That it matches with the first sentence, first word, Kavim. Kavim is all-knowing. He is all-knowing, and therefore he is the source of all knowledge, and therefore Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. So a person should think of me as Kavim. That is, he is all-knower. He is Puranaha, Purapinavaha. He is old, at the same time new, who is able to command and then sustain this entire universe. He is smaller than the smallest. And then he is the person who is sustaining and nourishing this entire universe. It is difficult for one to conceive the inner nature of the Bhagavan as such, and he is the person who is able to dispel the darkness and then come as a source of light, or he is able to dispel the ignorance and then be the source of knowledge for all of us. So that is he's talking about the greatness of Bhagavan in this sloka. Let's move on to sloka number 10.
प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्.
So prayana kale, at the time of leaving this body, manasa chalena, manasa achalena. That means by making the mind very firm or achala. Achala means not moving elsewhere. That just it is concentrating that mind on one particular position, where is bhakti along with love and affection, devotion for the Lord. Bhaktya yukta. That means devotion for the Lord. Yoga balena chaiva. So along with the yoga bala means that the power of that he has gained over meditation for a long period of time. Bhruvoho madhye pranam aveshya samyak. That means in the middle of this side, that is where the Agnya Chakshi, that is, this is the portion. So prana Sakti, erase the prana Sakti and then keep it in the middle of this, Of course, he's talking about the people who follow this Raja Yoga. It may not be possible for all of us. A person who wants to leave this body, he can, do this. In subsequent slokas also, he's going to talk about how a person can do that. So he has to bring his prana in the middle of this eyebrow. That means Bhruvor Madhya Pranam Aveshya Samyak. Very well, bringing it under this one. Tam Puram Purasham Upait. That means that person will ultimately reach the abode of Bhagwan. Bhagwan is Param Purusham, that is the ultimate Purusha. And then Upaiti Divyam means divine. Upaiti, he reaches this abode, my abode. For a person who has been constantly, regularly practicing his Dhyana Yoga, he may be able to control his prana and bring it to the places where it should be brought. That's what Bhagwan is talking about. So at the time of when the person knows that he is going to coming to an end, at that time he consciously brings his prana in the middle of this eyebrow, and then along with the devotional favor, and then concentrates on that position and leaves his body, then that person ultimately reaches me. That's what Bhagavan is saying. There's different ways how people can practice at the time of leaving his body so that he can ultimately reach. Of course, for all of us, Bhagavan has given a very simple solution. All we need to do is when the mind as well as when our body is in good condition, we surrender to the Bhagavan, saying that, I have completely surrendered to you. I can't do anything beyond that. And therefore, please take care of me at my death. And then Bhagavan promises, say, Aham smarami mad bhaktam, nayami paramam. So that is what is, and then keep on doing. And that, the five angas of this Sharanagati is most important. That is, the moment you surrender, and that's in the subsequent periods, what you need to do is you should do anukulasya sankalpa. That means you should do things which are conducive for you to, proceed on this path of spiritual thing, and also get away from this, this pratikulasya varjanam. That means get away from those things which will pull you down from that. These are the only two things we'll have to carefully adhere to. Once you surrender to the Bhagavan, then he takes care of it ultimately, completely when the time comes for us to leave this body. Let's move on to sloka number 11.
यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये.
Yet aksharam vedavidaha vadanti. That means that aksharam, that means one syllable, which is the pranavakaram, om. Vedavidaha, people who have studied the Vedas, vadanti, they say that vishanti yad yateyaha vitaragaha. That means they have those people. So we talked about one person who is able to bring his prana in the middle of this eyebrow. That is one way of leaving the body. That person who keep chanting the pranavakaram, who have studied the Vedas and they know the entire purpose of the Veda, and therefore they chant the aksharam. That means people who are learned in the Vedas, they utter this omkara. That is this pranavakaram. Yatayaha vitaragaha. That means all those people have completely left their, ragas. Ragas means all the cravings for this sense objects and all those things. They have completely left out that. Then yateha vishanti. That means they enter into that, this yat ichantaha brahmacharyam charanti. They also practice the brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam is, that is using the sense organs only for the purpose for which they have been ordained, not for any other purpose. All the sense organs have been ordained for getting into the mode of bhakti. That is thinking of Bhagwan's rupa and form is for the purpose of eyes. Smelling the Bhagwan's flowers as well as the tulasi is the purpose of having this nose. Hearing about the Bhagwan's leelas and gunas and then kathas, Bhagavata kathas, that is the purpose of this, having these ears. Then chanting the Bhagwan's name and then taking the food that is required for a sustenance, that is the purpose of this mouth. And then touching the Bhagwan's rupa and form and all those things, that is what is the purpose of this skin. That is what is the touch smell. So if a person uses these sense organs only for the purpose for which they've been ordained, That is called as brahmacharya. One is able to practice that kind of a brahmacharya. Tatte padam sangrahanena pravacham. So that means these people reach that path. I'm going to briefly explain to you how that happens. That's what Bhagavan says in this subsequent slokas. So we will stop with that. So one way of looking at it, the person who is able to, through his yoga bala, is able to bring his prana to this Bhrumadhya and leaves his body. That is one way of. Other meaning, people who are learned in the Vedas, they chant the name of Aksharam, that is that Pranavakaram, and then they practice the celibacy or the brahmacharya, and they leave the body, they also reach him. Then there are some, I'll briefly mention about what are the ways of leaving this body for the person to reach me. That's what Bhagavan is going to talk about. So we'll discuss these topics in the next session. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramadhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatram Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishna 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 Krishna.